Take your seat, settle in, and listen up. Gophers 101 is underway and in session. It's time to go to class and talk all things Gophers.
If Jim Nantz was here, he would probably refer to this as a tradition unlike any other, going back 5 or 6 years, maybe. Maybe it's a little bit less than that, but to the SKOR North Gophers show, and then my own podcast side venture of Minnesota Sports Chat, the now defunct Minnesota Sports Chat, and now Gophers 101, where myself and Mr. Daniel House, who I'll get to in just mere seconds, will go through and nonchalantly, with some hilarity, break down every college football bowl game and first round matchup of the college football playoff. I do welcome the aforementioned Daniel House of GophersGuru.com, who has been referenced many times throughout the football season on this podcast. Check out his work at GophersGuru.com. And Daniel, you also had a rebrand on the X Machine like 2 years ago, and I never remember your handle. So remind everybody what that is.
I'm on Twitter at Daniel House, MN.
There we go. Daniel does a great job breaking down Gophers football. You'll find recruiting analysis, game breakdowns, game previews, all of that fun stuff for a very small price at GophersGuru.com. If you are a Golden Gophers fan, and I will include basketball into that as well, check out GophersGuru.com. Nobody knows college football and the NFL as good as Daniel House does. I'm even underselling his work. He's involved in so many other projects. So I'm going to set Daniel House up. He's going to look good, and then we're just going to go game by game. That's how we're going to do this, because my knowledge is more trivial. His is more factual. So are you ready to do this, Daniel? Are you ready to break down? I believe we have 39 games. We have 35 bowls and 4 first-round matchups to get to.
I'm ready to go. I've been waiting for this all year. This is the moment that we all look forward to. We talk about it in the summer, and then we get to live it out in December when the bowl game lineup is released. So let's get to it, man. Let's get to it.
And we know there's going to be mistakes along the way. I'm going to hit a wrong button. I'm going to read something wrong. Daniel's going to preview the wrong game. Something like that is bound to happen. Just work with us, okay? We will start with the illustrious
the LA Bowl, Boise State versus Washington.
Played at SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, California. It features Boise State at 8-4 out of the Mountain West. See, I already butchered that. 9-4 out of the Mountain West. Washington at 8-4 out of the Big Ten. Daniel, it is the bucked up LA Bowl. Let's get bucked up and talk some college football. What do you got in the LA Bowl?
Taking the Washington Huskies. You look at the last month of the season, Denzel Boston, Jonah Coleman, both a little dinged up. Sounds like they're going to play in the bowl game. Give me Damon Williams' athleticism. Going to be a big challenge for Boise State to handle him and his dynamic playmaking ability. So I'm going with the Washington Huskies of the Big Ten.
I'm also probably likely to go with Washington. Actually, for this exercise, I will go with Washington for you because we're going to keep track here. I will go with Washington mainly just because the allure of the blue turf isn't quite what it was under the Dan Hawkins, Chris Peterson era. By the way, this is the unofficial Chris Peterson Bowl featuring the 2 teams that he coached. I'm going to go with the latter of the teams that he coached. I will also take Washington.
The IS4S Salute to Veterans Bowl. Troy versus Jacksonville State.
Don't scan that too quickly. It is not the ISIS Bowl. It is the IS4S Bowl in Crampton. They call it the Crampton Bowl in Montgomery, Alabama. This features Troy at 8-5 out of the Fun Belt, Jacksonville State at 8-5 out of the Conference USA. What do you got, Daniel, in the IS4S Salute to Veterans Bowl?
Give me the dynamic rushing ability of Cam Cook and the Jacksonville State Gamecocks. I like them because Troy's run defense is an absolute disaster. I think that they're going to be able to run the football at will, control the clock, sustain drives, take this one the distance. I'm going with Jacksonville State.
These are fun ones, Daniel, because between now and this game is on December 16th, so it's only a handful of days away. But you just never have any idea who's going to play, who isn't. And it's two, I guess, group of 5 conferences. I have no idea what to expect here. I think Jacksonville State, just because they play in the slightly better conference. That is the way that I lean in this one with Jacksonville State. Up next, we have
the Staff DNA Cure Bowl. Old Dominion versus USF.
Played on December 17th at Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida. It is Old Dominion at 9-3 out of the American Athletic, taking on South Florida X. Butchered that one. It is Old Dominion at 9-3. Are they out of the Fun Belt? They're out of the Fun Belt.
They are. Yep.
Yep. There we go. And also 9-3 South Florida out of the American Athletic. What do you got?
I like Old Dominion in this game. I like what they do with the run game. They're very creative in that. It's going to create some challenges for South Florida. They're undergoing a lot of stuff right now with Alex Golesh taking the Auburn job, change galore. Defensively, Old Dominion is multiple. Underrated, 11th most efficient defense in college football among the whole FBS. I like Old Dominion in this game. South Florida had a great season, but with all the stuff going on coaching staff-wise, I think Old Dominion, their scheme and style could create some challenges. So I don't know who the favorite is actually in Vegas in this game, but I'm going to take Old Dominion.
So I'm going to stay in lockstep with you for the third time out of the gate here. I like Old Dominion for every reason that you mentioned. They do not have the instability within the program that South Florida currently has. Also, shout out to Taylor Heineke, former Minnesota Vikings great. That is a part of the calculus as to why I am going with Old Dominion here. Up next, we have
the 68 Ventures Bowl, Louisiana versus Delaware.
Played at Hancock Whitney Stadium in Mobile, Alabama. It is 6-6 Louisiana out of the Sun Belt, 6-6 the Delaware Blue Hens out of the Conference USA. What you got, buddy?
I actually like Delaware in this game. Transition went quite well to the FBS. I have a little bit of concern of Louisiana's consistency, especially their ability to stop the run, which I think is a huge factor in these games. When you look at the past trends and kind of study it on a deeper level. So I am actually going to go with the Delaware Blue Hens. Go Rich Gannon, baby.
This is a tough one, but I think I'm going to stay with you, and we're 4 for 4 out of the gate because I can't possibly. The records are the same. I think the Conference USA is slightly a better conference for whatever that's worth. That doesn't mean everything, but it is, something to take into consideration. Also, how do you bet against a team called the Blue Hens? So I'm also taking Delaware. Up next, we have
the Xbox Bowl, Missouri State versus Arkansas State.
Which is, by the way, a new bowl played at the Ford Center in Frisco, Texas. It features 7-5 Missouri State out of the Conference USA taking on 6-6 Arkansas State out of the Sun Belt/Fun Belt on December 18th. What do you got, Daniel?
Ooh, this is an interesting one because Missouri State's coach announced that he's leaving. So I don't know. I think that their offense with Jacob Clark leading the way, passing game ability to throw the ball vertically down the field, done a very good job of staying on schedule offensively. They're a top 35 offense and being able to stay on track, which I think is an important variable, especially in these type of games. So I am actually going to take Missouri State.
Just to be different, I will take Arkansas State here because I have nothing to add other than, our guy Butch Jones, who helped shipwreck Tennessee, is now at Arkansas State, doing a decent job there. I'll go with Arkansas State just because. Up next, we head to Myrtle Beach.
The Myrtle Beach Bowl, Kennesaw State versus Western Michigan.
How about the year that Kennesaw State had, by the way? This game played at Brooks Stadium in Conway, South Carolina. It features a 9-4 Western Michigan team out of the MAC, and we have a 10-3 conference champion out of the Conference USA, Kennesaw State. Actually, Western Michigan, also a conference champion, dominating Miami of Ohio in the MAC championship. House, to me, this is a pretty interesting game early on here in the slate between two smaller schools that probably not a lot of people know a ton about. I guess if you're in Minnesota, you know that P.J. Fleck came from Western Michigan. They've been around for quite some time, but pretty interesting, intriguing matchup here early on in bowl season.
This is going to be one of the better matchups. I don't think there's two storylines better than, from a coaching standpoint, Lance Taylor, what he's done at Western Michigan, kind of flipping that program after they regressed a little bit. Jerry Mack taking their team to the level that he has, I think done one of the best coaching jobs. Is actually tweeting about it the other night. The way they flipped their defense personnel-wise, and then Amari Odom, quarterback who's extremely dynamic. This matchup's intriguing. I think both teams are pretty even. I'm going to go with Kennesaw State because I think Amari Odom's a better quarterback and create some challenges with the legs, extend plays. But definitely watch this game. This is going to be one that is close and competitive.
Oh, House, I will watch most of them, as you know, except for there's a few early on where I will be locked into work and some other obligations. But if you want to talk about these 39 games specifically, House, this will probably let people into how sick my life is. It's a pretty fair assumption I will watch a part to all of 30 of these 39 games. I'm just going to be honest about that. I will go with Western Michigan. I like their ability to run the football. I think they're just a little bit bigger and stronger athletically, and we'll see how that plays out over the course of the game. Up next, we have
the Union Home Mortgage Gasparilla Bowl, NC State versus Memphis.
This game's played on December 19th at Raymond James Stadium in Tampa, Florida. We have Memphis taking on NC State. NC State at 7-5 out of the ACC. Memphis at 8-4 out of the American Athletic. Memphis undergoing a coaching change and some transition there. But on the surface, Daniel, kind of a fun matchup, at least if you take the 5,000-foot view of the two programs.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, there's a lot of change going on at Memphis with Charles Huff being the head coach. Now Ryan Silverfield going to Arkansas. The big core thing that I look at in this matchup is Memphis has struggled running the ball. They're a bottom 30 team in rush offensive efficiency. I like CJ Bailey, the quarterback at NC State. I think he's going to create some challenges for Memphis defense schematically. So I am taking Dave Doran and NC State Wolfpack.
I'll go with NC State again. By the way, this is a great uniform matchup if you care about trivial, stupid things like that. I think both teams have good, as they say in soccer, kits, threads, uniforms. I'll go with NC State for no other reason, again, than they just play in the better conference. Up next, Daniel, guess what? We get to talk some CFP. We're going in order of the 39 games played, so we segue to the first round of the college football playoff with
playoff first round. Number 8 Oklahoma versus number 9 Alabama.
This game will be played in Norman, Oklahoma. Oklahoma earns the 8 seed, Alabama the 9. I'm not really going to give you the records here, Daniel, because I think the committee has shown over the last couple of years they don't really care about that sort of thing, so why should I? Oklahoma earns the home game here by 1 spot in the seeding. They will take on Alabama in the first round of the playoffs. How do you see this one? Two traditional Oklahoma, maybe not there the last 2 decades or so, give or take, but a traditional blue blood taking on Alabama, another blue blood here in college football.
I'm going to cut against the grain here. Probably most people will pick Alabama. I'm taking Oklahoma, possibly in an upset. I guess I did not look at the line on the game. OU's pass rush is going to be the difference in this thing, being able to really attack up the interior. Grayson Halton, David Stone, 2 players that can create some challenges for Alabama's offensive line. You look at Oklahoma's defense, that's where they put all their resources in terms of roster building. They're 5th in defensive EPA per play. Oklahoma's defense, I think, is outstanding, is going to create some challenges for Alabama. So I'm picking the Sooners.
I think this one is razor thin, but I think you have to lean towards who is the home team. I also really think that year over year, Brent Venables has done a really good job at Oklahoma. I think a lot of people didn't love the early returns, but year over year, they have gotten better. Alabama, yeah, I don't know. Alabama strikes me as a team that we could see in the college football playoff. We could also see them losing by 2 touchdowns in the first round. You just don't know. And because you just don't know, I need to go with the team that has been more consistent. So I am also going to take Oklahoma. Up next, we have
playoff first round. Number 5, Oregon versus number 12, James Madison.
House, you have James Madison, who was, they earned their way in by being the last of the highest rated conference champions. And oh, goody for them. They get to go to Autzen Stadium and take on Oregon. What do you got? How do you see this one? Because I will say this, Daniel, I'm happy for James Madison. They have nothing to apologize for being in the college football playoff. I'm having a hard time seeing how this game is competitive.
This is a matchup that is going to be very challenging for James Madison, just in terms of how much stuff Oregon does. Schematically, all the personnel groupings, the motion, mixing up their backs. I mean, they got several different players and styles, and Jordan Mason and De'Aaron Hill, who I think is extremely dynamic. I look at, the Oregon defense is super aggressive. Their secondary is physical, going to come up and challenge you. I think that Oregon's going to control this game at the line of scrimmage. Their offensive line's outstanding, and that's going to be something that carries them in the college football playoff, potentially for a deep run, because they can run the football with proficiency. And I look at that as a huge factor, especially when you got to close these games out. Are you able to run it at a high level? When you got Whittington, you got Davidson, you got De'Aaron Hill, you can just rotate the backs all night long and create mismatches. So I'm taking Oregon.
For those keeping score at home, Oklahoma and Alabama's played on December 19th. Oregon and James Madison played on December 20th, as is
playoff first round. Number 7, Texas A&M versus number 10, Miami of Florida.
I may have these games slightly out of order, but at least I have the day correct. This one, I think, could be fun, but man, Daniel, I think having to go in to College Station and take on Texas A&M is just a tough ask. I think Texas A&M, almost every team in this playoff has a chance to win the college football playoff. From where I'm sitting, I think we all really undervalue Texas A&M. I think this is a tough draw for Miami.
I'm intrigued by this matchup. I don't know. I think this is going to be a close game. I have trouble trusting Carson Beck in a big game, especially with what Texas A&M does stylistically on defense and how they're going to mix up their coverages and try to, change the picture and force him into a mistake. But I do feel like Ruben Bain, that pass rush and the physicality of Miami's defense, plus our guy, Corey Heatherman, defensive coordinator, the Canes, go Canes, he is going to create a scheme that basically puts the quarterback in spots where he doesn't know exactly what the zone rotation is going to look like. I think Miami gets a couple of takeaways that change the tide of the game. I think the Canes end up winning this their first round CFP game over Texas A&M.
Okay, we will differ there because I will take Texas A&M. I like the home teams in these college football playoff matchups. I will tell you, though, in our next matchup, Daniel
playoff
House,
first round, number 6 Ole Miss versus number 11 Tulane.
I'm not saying Tulane is going to win, but don't sleep on Tulane being competitive in this game. I've heard a lot of people say that the 11 and 12 seeded teams don't belong in the tournament. It could be a laugher. By and large, I agree with that. Separate tangent, I've told you for years, Daniel, I understand why people love the NCAA basketball tournament, but if we're being honest with ourselves, you're not fielding the 68 best teams. You're fielding probably 45 of the best teams and 23 other teams just because we have to. I get that argument in the college football playoff. I also think that Tulane can score some points. Now, Ole Miss plays really good defense. I think Ole Miss will win. I do believe they will survive all this Lane Kiffin turmoil. I believe Ole Miss will win, but I do think Tulane has a chance to be highly competitive in this game.
I would agree. My heart has really, really wanted to pick Tulane in this game. It did, but I feel as if you're looking at this from a sports betting perspective, I definitely would look at taking Tulane to cover the spread in this game. Now, the variable that I'm watching in this game is Tulane's rushing attack versus Ole Miss's rush defense. I think that could be a problem. And I sit here right now and I'm on the edge, man. I sit here, I'm on the edge. But you know what? This is fun. This is supposed to be fun. And I feel it in my gut. I'm taking the green wave. John Summerall, my guy, who's going to kill it at Florida, one of the best hires of the cycle, along with Will Stein at the University of Kentucky. Green wave, baby.
Well, and there is some precedent here. Tulane with a big victory. Was it over Florida State just a handful of years ago in a, what did we call them at the time? The New Year's Eve 6. So Tulane has been a pretty darn good program in college football for quite some time. That wraps up the college football playoff portion, Daniel. We now move back into Bowl Bonanza with the illustrious and the
famous Idaho Potato Bowl. Utah State versus Washington State.
Yeah, this one to me is interesting. You have 2 6-6 teams. Washington State, I guess technically still out of the Pac-12. And then we have Utah State out of the Mountain West. I could be wrong on Washington State. I've lost track of that. But both teams are 6-6. This game is played on the blue turf in Boise, Idaho. I have no clue what to make of this, Daniel. So why don't you tell me?
Well, I'm going to tell you this much. Whoever can stop the run is leaving with a victory here. Both of these run defenses are not very good. When you watch them play this year, teams have been able to run the ball all over them. Both of them are middle of the pack in terms of, being able to run the football. So who can stop it a little bit better? I'm betting on Washington State to do so. So I am going to take the Cougs in this matchup.
Kind of a regional home game for both teams, but if I did the math, my hunch is that Utah State's probably slightly closer. Maybe the game means more to them. I will just go with Utah State just because. Up next, we have
the Boca Raton Bowl, Louisville versus Toledo.
Louisville at 8-4 out of the ACC, Toledo at 8-4 out of the MAC, played in Boca Raton, Florida. Just on the surface, House, you can tell me if I'm wrong. This feels like a classic mismatch if Louisville is invested in the game. So I'll just tell you right now, I'm going to take Louisville.
Yeah, I'm taking Louisville as well. Braum is an outstanding coach. The passing game that they have is going to put a lot of stress on the secondary. The schematic mix that he puts together. I mean, you talk to college coaches, they say, man, he's one of the toughest guys to prepare for. Toledo going through some change with, Jason Candle going to UConn and the defensive coordinator taking a P4 defensive coordinator job. So I feel like all the change going on at Toledo plus the quality coaching at Louisville, they're going to end up being able to throw the football with effectiveness. Their speed and space is going to create some yards after the catch, some big explosive plays, and Louisville ends up taking this one over Toledo, especially considering all the change going on in Toledo's program.
Up next, we have
the New Orleans Bowl, Western Kentucky versus Southern Miss.
Southern Miss at 7-5 out of the, oh boy, you're going to have to correct me on this one. They are out of the Sun Belt. Western Kentucky at 8-4 is out of the Conference USA. Obviously, this game is played at the Caesars Superdome. Put some respect on Caesars in New Orleans. House, what can you tell us?
I think that Western Kentucky ends up winning this game. You look at, I was studying some rosters, and you look at the ability to maximize your entire team and get productivity across the board at all position groups. Western Kentucky is one of the best in the G5 in that category. I like what they've done there. Southern Miss, again, another team going through some coaching change because Charles Huff is heading to Memphis. So I feel as if when you got a lot of that change going on, those are the variables that often swing the game in someone else's favor. I really like the wide receiver at Western Kentucky, Matthew Henry. He was a transfer from Western Illinois. Watch for him. Good player.
You know my analysis here, House. It's pretty rudimentary. I'm going with the team with the slightly better record that plays in the slightly better conference, which would be your aforementioned Western Kentucky squad. So I will match you and take Western Kentucky. Up next, it's time to get a little caffeinated.
The Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl, UNLV versus Ohio.
Side note, Scooters Coffee is fantastic. This game played in Frisco, Texas at the site of the FCS National Championship game, which will not include North Dakota State this year. 10-3 UNLV led by Dan Mullen taking on 8-4 Ohio. Ohio out of the MAC, UNLV out of the Mountain West. You could tell me if I'm wrong. If UNLV has a roster and they're invested, I believe that this is a game that UNLV should win easily.
UNLV, top 20 team in offensive success rate, ability to stay on track offensively, be efficient in the pass and the run game. I feel like Ohio, Navarro creates some challenges because of his ability to, scramble, do some stuff in the design quarterback run game. He gets C.A. Bangura, former Gopher, in the backfield. He had a great season. UNLV, I like what Dan Mullen's done there. Great coach who's able to, put his teams in good position for success. He'll have his guys ready. I'm going with UNLV.
Yeah, I don't know. And every bowl season, there's going to be a couple games that surprise us, Daniel. There just always is. This one, to me, I just can't quite, at least until I see the game, wrap my head around how Ohio would win this football game. Up next, it's a Christmas Eve tradition.
The Sheraton Hawaii Bowl, California versus Hawaii.
Hawaii at 8-4 out of the Mountain West. Cal with our guy JKS out of the ACC at 7-5. This is played in Honolulu at one of the more hilarious stadiums in all of college football as Hawaii continues to play in, I guess, their temporary permanent stadium of the Clarence T.C. Chang Athletic Complex. It is quite a sight to see. So as you're gathering around, waiting for Santa to appear on Christmas Eve, flip on the Hawaii Bowl on ESPN. Daniel, this feels like a game where defense is going to be optional and a lot of points are going to be scored.
Yeah, I worry about California's ability to run the football. They have not been able to do that. You saw that when Minnesota played them this year. JKS can rip the football around the yard. A very impressive talent who they were actually able to retain, which is big for their program. They did make the coaching change, but Rolovich has been involved in, the interim piece of being the head coach. I actually, watch a lot of the late night Hawaii football games with your guy, Mr. Timmy Chang. And I feel like Hawaii, I think that their defensive line is sneaky. So I am actually going to take Hawaii in this game.
Cal probably, I love what I'm going to say here. Cal probably should win this football game. I don't think you can put probably and should back to back. But you cannot pick against Hawaii. It's not technically their bowl, but it's their bowl because they play in it almost all the time when they're bowl eligible. You cannot pick against them in that erector set stadium. I will also take Hawaii. And that now takes us to the day after Christmas and if I can move my mouse here, the
Game Above Sports Bowl, Central Michigan versus Northwestern.
This is the former Motor City Bowl, former Little Caesars Pizza Bowl, former Quick Lane Bowl. It's the bowl that I refer to as the bowl that the Minnesota Golden Gophers built, the Detroit Bowl. This year it will feature at Ford Field, by the way, a 6-6 Northwestern team out of the Big Ten taking on Central Michigan out of the MAC at 7-5. This game, I wouldn't say this is very exciting, but there's good regionality here, and congrats to Northwestern for earning a bowl bid, largely in part to beating Minnesota at Wrigley Field in mid to late November. How do you see this one, Daniel?
I actually am intrigued by this game too. When you watch Central Michigan, I actually had them for game research earlier in the year. And when I studied them, I was so impressed with how similar their offense is to the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of that, read option, zone read type of stuff, a creative run game, very physical, lots of pulling and different power run schemes. built in with kind of the spread pass game philosophy. I think they punched above their weight this year. Their head coach is definitely a guy that's going to be a candidate to move up after next season and get a bigger gig. Northwestern, look at them, they always play connected team defense. They're going to take away the big play. They're going to tackle well. They're going to be a unit that you can count on to be efficient and well prepared. I just feel like, Preston Stone, you look at how he played against Minnesota, it was kind of an anomaly. His accuracy was all over the map. Taking care of the football was sometimes a problem. I feel like Northwestern, they'll be in a Big Ten team. They're going to be able to run the football. I like their offensive line. I like what they got going on in the backfield. I think that Joseph Hyman's the X factor here. I think he's going to catch one touchdown out of the backfield via a designed route.
You had me. I thought you were going to go with Central Michigan, so I could say
it's going to be close. It's going to be close.
Not so fast. Thank you, Lee Corso. I'm also going to go with Northwestern. It's simple. You've heard me say it 5 times already. I'll say it 5 more times. It's, in theory, the bigger, faster, stronger team out of the Big Ten. Bowl games always mean a lot to teams out of the MAC and some of those other teams in the group of 5. But I think this one will mean a lot to Northwestern to finish with a winning record, being back in bowl competition. So I will take Northwestern. This next game, for obvious reasons, being Gophers 101, we'll spend just a little bit more time on because it is the
Rate Bowl, New Mexico versus Minnesota.
Played in Phoenix, Arizona at Chase Field. It has 7-5. Minnesota out of the Big Ten, taking on New Mexico at 9-3 out of the Mountain West. Here is my one request for those in the greater Phoenix area that are involved in Chase Field. Daniel, if this is one of the 7 times a year it rains in Phoenix, Arizona, let's maybe close the roof during pregame so players aren't slipping and sliding all over the field like the last time the Minnesota Golden Gophers played in the Rate Bowl and beat, why am I blanking here? West Virginia. I will get this one out of the way, Daniel. The Gophers may have rather preferred taking on Iowa State had they accepted the bid to this game. Not saying the Gophers would beat Iowa State. I just feel like that would be a game that maybe, and I do trust the Gophers coaching staff here, but I think you see Iowa State, there's regionality. A lot of players were recruited by both programs. I think both programs with the available bodies would have come in ready to play. I think it's a little bit more difficult now for the Minnesota coaching staff to get their team up to play a New Mexico squad that I think is pretty darn good. I do think this. I think Minnesota's going to win the game and PJ Fleck will remain undefeated in bowl competition at the University of Minnesota. I would be surprised if it's an easy victory. This feels like a 23-17, 20-16, one-score game. I could be wrong here. Obviously, as a Gophers fan, I hope the Gophers play really well, win comfortably. But this feels like a game, Daniel, that could be PJ Fleck's first loss in bowl competition at the University of Minnesota. But I will go with Minnesota from the standpoint I do feel like a large part of their roster is going to be intact. Should PJ Fleck still be the football coach at the University of Minnesota when this game is played? So I will go with Minnesota, but I do think it will be close. And when you see a team from the Mountain West, you may say, oh, that's a good draw for Minnesota. Not so fast. I think New Mexico is a very well-coached and good football team. But again, I do think there's a talent gap here, Daniel. So I will go with the Gophers.
I'm going to say I think New Mexico State, well-coached football team, watched a lot of their games. Jason Eck, rising star in this business, has his teams ready to go, physical, solid fundamentals, creative. Their run game, I mean, they got new wrinkles every game. They'll throw a 6-0 line package in. They'll have a offensive tackle come in and play fullback in the backfield. They'll run like some sort of trick play where they look like they're going to do the tush push and they snap it between the quarterback's legs. Like if you want crazy, creative, exotic offense, Jason Eck's your guy, but they're going to play within the parameters of their scheme. They're going to be physical, they're going to be disciplined, and they're going to execute their assignments at a high level. Dorian Thomas, one of the more underrated tight ends in the country right now. Had a great season. They're able to do a lot of stuff at a 2 tight end. Quarterback Jack Lane can run around, do some stuff in the quarterback run game. So a lot to account for Minnesota's defense here, especially with the run game. You got to be very disciplined with your eyes. Jason Eck's going to have something creative throwing into that game plan offensively. Spence Nowinski, the defensive coordinator, I think he's one of the better defensive coordinators in the country. He doesn't get enough love. They're going to be multiple in what they do in the back end, rolling zones, doing a lot of things that, create some challenges for Minnesota. And Drake Lindsey's processing has been tested all year. Lots of different schematic styles, but I do think Minnesota is able to win this football game, but I feel it has a potential to be a white knuckler to the end here, just based on the style that New Mexico plays with, and they're a very well coached team. They're gonna be ready. They're motivated, and they're excited to play up in a bowl game. I mean, they get to play against another Big Ten team in a bowl game. This is gonna be their 3rd Big Ten game of the year. Like Jason Eck's auditioning for a future Big Ten job because this is his 3rd Big Ten game of the season. So I'd go Minnesota, but I do think this is going to be maybe a closer game than people think on paper.
Remind me of their second. I know they went to UCLA and legitimately named the score, put up a crooked number on UCLA. Who else did they play?
Michigan.
I should know
they
that.
played them at the Big House.
Correct. And there's plenty going on with Michigan, which I'm sure we'll get to in just a little bit when we get to their bowl game. I also will say this about Minnesota. I have been very critical and hard on their defense all year. This is another opportunity for them, for every reason that you laid out, to prove something, show up, play a good game. And who knows, every now and then when you have these 2-3 weeks off before a game, you see a radically different team. Maybe this is a game where the Minnesota defense shows up and plays well. I am looking forward to watching Drake Lindsey and his continued development. Look, Iowa State, Minnesota would have been a ton of fun, but we have seen that before. I don't think this is a bad partying gift to get a New Mexico squad that I believe to be pretty good. So I'm looking forward to the Rate Bowl, which is also played on December 26th. We're getting there, House. We're almost halfway home. Technically, I think we did just pass the halfway point, or will here shortly, because there's 39 and this is game 19. And we have
the Serve Pro First Responder Bowl, FIU versus UTSA.
UTSA out of the Conference USA at 6-6. Florida International out of the American Athletic. I may have butchered that. You're going to have to correct me. University Park, Texas at Gerald J. Ford Stadium is where this game will be played. UTSA is 6-6. Florida International is 7-5. Let me work through this, Daniel, really quickly before you correct me. I believe... Oh my gosh, this is difficult to figure out which 2 conferences these 2 teams are in. Is Florida International in the American Athletic? No, it's
UTSA is in American Athletic.
UTSA is in the American Athletic.
Florida International is in Conference USA.
Is it wrong that I don't know these things as well as I used to? But how can you, Daniel? The conferences change nearly every year at this point. How can you keep track of it?
Yeah, it's ever changing every day. There's no doubt about that.
How do you see this game, Daniel? How do you see it?
This is going to come down to the passing games of these 2 teams. I think that UTSA is going to be able to stretch these guys out vertically, throw the ball down the field. I'm watching for that matchup. Who plays with a little bit better pass defense and who can be a little more explosive through the air. Jeff Traylor's done a good job at UTSA. I think he's a very underrated coach. Somebody in the South that's got a P5 is eventually going to hire Traylor and have some nice success. I'm taking UTSA in this game over Florida International just because I think their passing game's a touch better.
I got nothing to add other than I'm taking UTSA because I love their uniforms and I love the name, the Roadrunners. So that is why I am going with UTSA. I'm 98% positive they are the Roadrunners. Is that correct, Daniel?
They are the Roadrunners, yes.
So there you go. I'll go with UTSA. Up next, we're going bowling, even though it's bowl season. Or are we actually bowling, like bowling with a bowling ball?
The Go Bowling Military Bowl, Pittsburgh versus East Carolina.
East Carolina at 8-4 out of the American Athletic, taking on Pittsburgh at 8-4 out of the ACC. This game is played in Annapolis, Maryland, at Jack Stevens Field at Navy Marine Corps Memorial Stadium. That is a mouthful. Man, I really want to go with the East Carolina Pirates here. It's just, again, I always go back to, for better or worse, right or wrong, I like that Pittsburgh has played well this year. They play a good schedule. I don't want to say it's great in the ACC, but they play a decent schedule. Again, I kind of like the regionality here of both schools being in the same area. That is fun when Bulls are able to accomplish that. I don't know. This feels like a coin flip to me. Maybe I'll go with East Carolina just to be fun.
Wow, we're going to line on an upset pick here. I am actually going to take East Carolina. Blake Harrell's done a good job at that school, rebuilding and kind of springboarding that program. Caton Hauser, the quarterback, former Big Ten player, done a nice job defensively. I think that, you look at this matchup, both top 25 in terms of defensive success rate, unique type of defensive scheme that you have to prepare for, and maybe something that Pittsburgh struggles with early on in the game. They get down in a hole, and, maybe they can't quite dig out of it. They're kind of climbing throughout the course of the game. Remember last year's bowl game with Pittsburgh? It was like a 48-46 video game against Toledo. East Carolina is a sneaky draw for Pittsburgh. I'm taking East Carolina.
That game is played on December 27th. Also played on December 27th, we have
the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl, Penn State versus Clemson.
Oh boy, do we have a couple of brand names here at a brand name stadium, played at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, New York. We have Penn State out of the Big Ten at 6-6. They rallied late in the year to become bowl eligible, taking on Clemson at 7-5. I don't know, Daniel. I feel like I like Clemson. I think I'll go with Clemson. Penn State could easily win the game as well. You know more than I do. What do you got?
This game's going to come down to who can run the football better. And I will say I do not trust Penn State's ability to stop the run. I think Clemson is going to come into this game plan really attacking on the perimeter, pin and pull, maybe getting out with toss plays, working the edge of Penn State's defense. I think that Clemson is going to control this game by running the football, get some explosives in that category. I am taking Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers.
House, is it really much of a friendly competition between you and I if we've picked like 90% of the same games? Maybe
Isn't
there'll
that
be
crazy?
Maybe there'll be some variances here on the back half. Up next, also on the 27th, I like that we're going from historic baseball stadium to historic baseball stadium.
The Wasabi Fenway Bowl, Army versus UConn.
Obviously played in Boston, Massachusetts at Fenway Park. We get 9-3 UConn. They are an independent, taking on, now as we record this, 6-5 Army out of the American Athletic. Hopefully I got that right. UConn's the independent. Army is the American Athletic participant. Army, of course, will take on Navy in America's game. We are recording this on December 12th, dropping it on December 12th. That game is on Saturday, December 13th. Always interesting when Army and Navy are involved in bowl games just because of what they do schematically. UConn quietly over the past couple of years has elevated themselves into no longer being an also-ran. That got Jim Mora Jr. a new job in Fort Collins, Colorado. I think I'm going to go with Army here because of the wrinkles and the creativity of what they do on offense, and I have no idea what the loss of Jim Mora Jr. will look like for UConn, so I'll go with Army for that reason.
Option-based offense, tough to prepare for in a bowl game. When you got an option-based offense that, is so creative and well executed during the regular season, you're preparing for that during training camp. When you aren't necessarily ready for that in the bowl game, plus you got coaching changes, plus you got, players moving in and out. I think that this is a game that Army's going to control with running the football, catching the eye discipline of UConn. I'm taking Army in this game just because I think it's a big schematic challenge.
Our next bowl up, House, is fun for so many reasons.
The Pop-Tarts Bowl, Georgia Tech versus BYU.
This game played in Orlando, Florida, also at Camping World Stadium. We have 11-2 BYU, who is undefeated this year against everybody not named Texas Tech. They will take on Georgia Tech, who had another nice year at 9-3 out of the ACC. Both teams ranked in the top 25. BYU at number 12, Georgia Tech at 9-3. My gut says Georgia Tech, but I'm going to go with BYU simply for the fact it's a fun stat to say that they went undefeated against everybody but Texas Tech. So I'm going to take our guy Kalani Sitake to get to 12-2 and win the illustrious Pop-Tarts Bowl and name his Pop-Tart that is going in the toaster.
Well, for those who follow the Penn State coaching search, I am going to say that I really like Kalani Sitake. I'm a huge fan of him, and I understand why everybody rallied to keep him. This is a tough matchup for BYU. Georgia Tech is a physical outfit, very good on the line of scrimmage. Brent Key does an awesome job with that offensive line. I think Haynes King can use his mobility. They're going to get him involved in the run game and do some stuff that puts BYU in conflict. Justice Haynes is our running back at Georgia Tech is very, very talented. I think that one of those things that I like about their team is just the ability to run the football, and I think that's something that I'm watching for in this matchup is the Jamal Haynes, the running back. I'm getting all confused with Justice Haynes at Michigan. Jamal Haynes, I think, who could be a very good NFL draft prospect. Watch for Georgia Tech running the football, BYU.
Not only is it tough to keep all these names in college football correct in your head, know who they are, it's even more difficult when year by year they're playing for different schools. So don't worry, Daniel. We understand. For what it's worth, we'll differ on that one, which is good. So at least we have a few variances when we're texting back and forth throughout bowl season. Up next, we head for warmer weather.
The Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl. Miami of Ohio versus Fresno State.
You have the former Fighting Pat Hills at 8-4 out of the Mountain West, taking on Miami University at 7-6 out of the MAC. This game played in Tucson, Arizona. I will take Fresno State, if only for one simple reason, Daniel, and I think you and I differ here.
Yep.
And this is such a mean thing to say. I just don't like Chuck Martin, and I don't know why. I just don't like him. So I'm going to go with Fresno State.
I'm taking Fresno State as well in this matchup. I think that Fresno State defensively, that's going to be the X factor in this matchup versus Miami. I don't have a lot of analysis on this game. I think it's going to be one of the worst games of the bowl slate, to be honest with you. I'm taking Fresno State.
Here is a fun one, Daniel.
The Isleta, New Mexico Bowl. San Diego State versus North Texas.
San Diego State at 9-3 out of the Mountain West, taking on number 25, North Texas, who narrowly missed out on playing in the college football playoff out of the American Athletic. This is at University Stadium in Albuquerque, New Mexico. House, I love, and I'm being serious here, I love when bowl games embrace where they are, what they do, and their culture. I love the trophy for the New Mexico Bowl. It may have changed, but in years past, it was basically a really nice piece of pottery. I love that. And I believe that that is still some semblance of what they hand out to maybe the MVP or the team that wins the game. And this is a really fun matchup. I'll go with San Diego State in a slight upset here, but your guy, Mastamaker with North Texas, very fun to watch.
Yeah, and we don't know who's going to play in this bowl game. That's the hard part. Is like
zero.
I mean, who the heck is going to play? I think Jaden Denegal, big athletic quarterback that they can move around, run around, make some plays, extend some stuff. North Texas, I'm banking on that a lot of their personnel is probably heading to Oklahoma State and won't play in the bowl game. San Diego State's had a good year with Sean Lewis, well coached, done a good job schematically. I'm taking the San Diego State Aztecs.
So we're like-minded there, and we move on to
Tax Slayer Gator Bowl, Missouri versus Virginia.
This game played in Jacksonville, Florida at Everbank Stadium, the home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. It features Missouri at 8-4 out of the SEC Virginia at 10-3 out of the ACC. Virginia was one victory over Duke away in overtime from participating in the college football playoff. Their partying gift, not bad. We'll call it the Gator Bowl, been around for quite some time. Very old bowl, very historic. I lean Missouri, but I really hope that Virginia is invested and ready to play in the game because it is kind of a fun matchup. But I'm going to go with Missouri. Better conference. I like your guy, Eli Drinkwitz, because I love his name. I also think he's done a heck of a job at Missouri, not only on the field, but cleaning up that football program for whatever it's worth. I will go with Missouri to win this football game.
Well, we're going to differ here. I'm taking Virginia. I think Chandler Morris, Jamari Taylor, the running back, who's a good portal ad, Terrell Harris, the former pride of Kent State, like that three trio group in their ability to, make big plays, take the top off the defense while also run the football. I like Virginia, how they played this year. Their roster building was very, very good, outstanding. Their pass rush is something that I think will be an X factor in this game versus Missouri. So I am taking the Cavaliers.
Up next,
the Kinder's Texas Bowl, LSU versus Houston.
This game played in Houston at NRG Stadium. This is also on December 27th. This has been a heck of a run for games on December 27th. Houston is number 21 at 9-3 out of the Big 12. LSU at 7-5 out of the SEC. This is another one specifically for LSU. No idea what their roster will look like. I don't know if I entirely believe in Houston. I'm going to let you give some analysis, and then maybe I will match your pick or go different just to be contrarian. I lean Houston, but I also know even if the LSU roster ends up being thin, there's going to be a lot of talent there.
Yeah, this game's going to come down to who can run the football. You see both are like bottom 35 rush offenses in terms of efficiency. So who's a little bit better? Who can run it better? I think Houston is slightly has the slight edge in that category. So I am actually going to take the Houston Cougars over LSU. And I know LSU's roster, even if they're without some people, probably is going to be fast. But I think Houston can be physical. And I think that Willie Fritz is a good coach and he'll have his team ready.
I'll take LSU just to be different here, House. So we have a little bit of variety. I do think this game could be pretty darn fun. It is a nice, fun matchup. You just always hope that a team like LSU is invested in playing when they are there. I'll go with LSU, partially to be different, partially because I believe that they can get the job done.
The J-Lab Birmingham Bowl, Georgia Southern versus Appalachian State.
We have a 5-7 alert. This game is played in Birmingham, Alabama. Appalachian State is 5-7. They'll take on Georgia Southern at 6-6. I don't know, Daniel. By the way, this is Sunbelt on Sunbelt crime, if I have this correctly. You don't often see that in bowl activity. However, you do when we're trying to find teams to fill out the slate. Barf would be the way that I would describe this game, Daniel.
Yeah, I'm not excited about this game. I want to know who you're picking, dude, because I'm probably gonna go the opposite so that we have some Flava Flav here.
Okay, so here's what I think. Sometimes the 5-7 teams, I have to go back and look at this, but the 5-7 teams historically do perform fairly well in bowl competition because I think they understand that people don't think that they should be there. However, I do think that Georgia Southern is probably just slightly the better team, and they earned their way to be there. So since they technically earned their way to be there at 6-6, I'll take Georgia Southern. That's what I got for you.
Dang. Well, you know what? I think I'm going with App State. And even despite all the absences that they have, from guys entering the transfer portal, especially on the defensive side of the ball, I just think that App State has the edge in the passing game. I think that probably will be the variable that distinguishes this game. When you look at football games, the team that ends up being a little bit more efficient in the pass game at the end tends to be able to win these bowl games. So I am taking App State just based off the passing game.
Well, I think that's all that we need to spend on that game. So we move on.
The Radiance Tech Independence Bowl, Coastal Carolina versus Louisiana Tech.
Coastal Carolina out of the Sun Belt, Louisiana Tech out of the Conference USA. This game played in Shreveport, Louisiana. Louisiana Tech is 7-5. Coastal Carolina is 6-6. If I butchered the conferences, Daniel, you can correct me. What do you got?
Oh man, another doozy of a bowl. Man, do not watch these two bowl games. I'm telling you right now.
Are these the ones? Are these the ones if you like to wager, you just wager, but then check the score 4 hours later after it starts?
You're like, I'm not tuning into this game. Again, variables that are important, ability to stop the run. And I think Louisiana Tech's probably a little bit better in that category. Coastal Carolina has a brand new coach, a Missouri State coach, just got hired there yesterday, I believe. So I think that I'm going with Louisiana Tech here in a slight edge, because I think that they're going to be able to run the football just a little bit better, which ultimately matters in sustaining drives and controlling the line of scrimmage.
Well, this will bum you out, but I'm also going to go with Louisiana Tech, so we'll be the same there.
The Liberty Mutual Music City Bowl, Tennessee versus Illinois.
I love the Music City Bowl. I think it's long been one of the better mid-tier bowls. I like the matchup this year. Game played in Nashville, Tennessee at Nissan Stadium. 8-4 Illinois out of the Big Ten taking on 8-4 Tennessee out of the SEC. My gut says Tennessee, but Illinois, especially under Brett Bielema, has a tendency to really show up and play well in bowl games. I lean Tennessee, so I'll just go with that, and we'll see what Daniel House says.
Yeah, I think that Tennessee ends up winning this game. I don't like the matchup for Illinois, especially in the passing game. I think that their secondary is going to struggle with those wider splits, the RPO. Chris Brazel's a really good wide receiver, someone that is going to be a great pro. I think that Tennessee's dynamic passing attack versus Illinois secondary that's been erratic all year, I think that's going to be a huge mismatch. I actually think Tennessee might be able to win this game with a pretty big margin, because Illinois can't run the football. Like, what is going on in Illinois this season? They can't run the football. Like, and this is Brett Bielema's Illini.
Correct, and that's a staple of Brett Bielema teams. Even his teams at Arkansas that struggled, they wanted to run and establish the run. And also, I don't want to say he's taking a step back, but Luke Altmaier just has not been as good this year as he has been in the past. And I think a part of that is because of what you said, Daniel. When you can't run the football, it affects most teams what you can do in the passing game. I do want to call. Can I have a timeout? Timeout. Okay, you're going to grant me a timeout. I can't believe we've made it almost 58 minutes into this thing. I have to thank SKOR North's AJ Fredrickson, who has been doing our voiceover work on these bowl matchups for years. And if only you could hear the raw audio of what he does when he puts these together, because the commentary from our guy AJ Fredrickson at SKOR North as he's reading these bowl matchups is quite hilarious. So thank you to AJ Fredrickson for helping out with the annual tradition that is our bowl bonanza, where we preview all the first round playoff matchups and the bowl game. So thank you, AJ Fredrickson. As we start to draw near to the end of this edition of Gophers 101, we move to
the Valero Alamo Bowl, USC versus TCU.
TCU not far removed from playing in the national championship game. This game is on December 30th. Sorry, I've been butchering the dates of some of these games, but again, we have been going in order. This game played in obviously San Antonio, Texas at the Alamo Bowl. Make sure you remember the Alamo Bowl. USC at 9-3, yes, out of the Big Ten, taking on TCU at 8-4 out of the Big 12. This is also historically a pretty fun bowl game. Always has a nice, attractive matchup. I've always liked Lincoln Riley. I think I've liked him more than most people have. I think a lot of people have kind of soured on him. I like Lincoln Riley. I just think USC, again, probably the more talented team. Obviously, their ranking currently shows that. I'll go with USC.
I actually think that this game is going to be very entertaining. Lots of points scored, speed and space, yards after the catch for days. I think this could be a trap for the Trojans. I think that.
Are you giving me a not so fast?
Not so fast, says Lee Corso. I like Josh Hoover, the quarterback. I think I'm taking TCU, man. I think that this game could be a trap one for USC, and I'm wondering what type of personnel they're going to have because they got a lot of draft eligible people on offense that are going to be pretty high picks. So who plays? I don't know, especially at that wide receiver position. So I'm taking TCU in an upset.
And by the way, good caveat, if you've made it an hour into this thing, this is solely for fun. A lot of these games are played weeks from now. We have no idea who's going to play, who isn't. This is just a 5,000-foot view at the games for fun, for Daniel and I to get together and talk football. So do what you want with the information, especially his, because his is more hard-hitting than mine, which is generally based on if I like the coach, if I like your uniforms, and if I like your conference, generally is how I end up determining a lot of these bowl games. Up next,
the ReliaQuest Bowl, Vanderbilt versus Iowa.
Vanderbilt at 10-2 out of the SEC, Iowa at 8-4 out of the Big Ten. Kirk Ferentz almost always has his teams ready to play in bowl games, by the way. They have a great bowl record. Vanderbilt, I'm going to go ahead and guess that they will be invested in this game. I know they thought they had a case for the college football playoff. I think they're going to want to prove that. I do think they're the better team. They can do a lot more on offense than Iowa can, so I will go with Vanderbilt to win the formerly the Outback Bowl, now ReliaQuest Bowl. This game this year is played on December 31st.
I love this matchup. I think it's one of the best matchups of bowl season. Two physical, well-coached teams that are going to be able to try to really assert themselves along the line of scrimmage. You got Diego Pavia, who I believe he's going to play in the bowl game. I haven't heard that he's not going to. I think the guy's got swagger.
He might play next year again in college football. You never know.
I know, dude. I know. I love Vanderbilt. I love their playing style, how they approach the game, how they build their team. I'm taking Vanderbilt in this game. I think that they're going to be able to stop the run, which is a big variable. And you look at their ability to produce and finish productive drives. They're fourth in that category. I think that's a big factor. I like Vanderbilt in this game.
We move on to
the Tony the Tiger Sun Bowl, Duke versus Arizona State.
Duke at 8-5, put some respect on their names. They are the ACC champions. They will take on Arizona State at 8-4 out of the Big 12. This game played in El Paso. I've always been a big Sun Bowl guy. I think it's a cool setting, fun time of year. I don't quite know what to make of this, but I'm going to go with Duke, thinking that they're riding high, feeling good, and they had a 0.0000000000001% chance at making the college football playoff after winning the ACC title game. They are going to show that they are disrespected, and they are going to take it out on Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State. Duke wins the Sun Bowl.
I like Duke as well. I think Darian Mensah is a great quarterback. They look at how they played in the ACC championship game. They really shook up the CFP. They got down. They've been injured on defense. They had a lot of guys hurt, personnel problems on that side of the ball, but lots of players stepped up. They'll be a little more healthy as they get into the later stage of December here. This is a team that's very underrated in how they build their team, how they build their roster. They value productivity. I am taking the Duke Blue Devils.
This next game, we don't need to spend a ton of time on the shenanigans, but I will say this, college coaches across the country, and I think I'm not trying to make light of this. I think there's a lot more going on to the situation than just what we see on the surface level. But college coaches, whether you're a coordinator, head coach, position coach, stop messing around with staffers. Stop doing it, especially if you're married. Stop doing it.
The Cheez-It Citrus Bowl, Michigan versus Texas.
Texas, number 13 at 9-3. Michigan, currently coachless. Although it's going to be your guy, Biff Pierogi? I always get his name wrong. He'll be coaching Michigan in the bowl game. Michigan also at 9-3, ranked 18th in the country. This game played also in Orlando, Florida at Camping World Stadium. Daniel, I don't know if this is controversial or not. I think even prior to Sharon Moore's departure, I would have taken Texas. I think we have overvalued Michigan all year. I think they're incredibly limited offensively. Texas has a lot more talent, I believe, on their team. I think Texas will win this game easily.
I think that with all the drama going on, and who knows which players are still going to be there, what decisions are made, regarding their futures and where they're going to play next year. Texas's offense, their skill players, I think it's going to be the difference. Sark will have a good game plan. They don't have the distractions. I think that Texas ends up winning this game. I think they're going to have a game plan in the back end that confuses Bryce Underwood, changing the picture, take away the RPO stuff that they were doing at the end of the year that, was comfortable for Bryce Underwood, and that's going to be a huge problem. Texas.
Just five bowl games left, and House, you can take all this information that we have given you, and you can take it all the way to
the SRS Distribution Las Vegas Bowl, Nebraska versus Utah.
Take it to Las Vegas and do whatever you want with the information, because again, this is not official betting advice. Utah at 10-2 takes on Nebraska at 7-5. Nebraska's going to want to try and prove something. They had a disappointing year. They're going to be without some players. I love, I think we've talked about this in past shows where you've been on with me. By the way, welcome to Gophers 101. I think this is your first appearance, and it's been over an hour. So welcome, by the way. I love Kyle Whittingham. I think he's a very underrated coach. If he could ever get a quarterback to stay healthy for more than like 6 games, I think this guy could do some damage and appear in some college football playoffs. I will take Utah to win this game.
Utah D-line, Nebraska O-line. Mismatch. I would go stunt. I'd go zone pressure. I'd go simulated pressure. I would just get after this Nebraska offensive line. I think Utah's physicality along the D-line versus Nebraska's O-line. X factor, Utah takes this one over the Huskers. And Matt Rule, who is extended, there's probably some regret there.
Let's move on to another one of the matchups.
Lockheed Martin Armed Forces Bowl, Rice versus Texas State.
Texas State at 6-4 out of the Sun Belt. Rice at 5-7 out of the American Athletic. This game played in Fort Worth, Texas. This is on January 2nd. Again, apologizing for butchering some of the dates. I've been pretty inconsistent on that. Inconsistent like some of the play you'll see during bowl football season. I don't know, House. I've always liked Rice football because I think it's hilarious. I love the name. I love that to a degree. They have knockoff Philadelphia Eagles uniforms, even though they're different colors. But I got to believe there's more talent on the Texas State side, so that's where I'm going.
I'm going with Rice in this game. Again, triple options, tough to prepare for. Texas State's defense has taken a step back this year. I don't think that, just from top to bottom, they kind of they're one of those teams that got hit with people taking their players in the transfer portal. It was hard to replace it. If you don't do a good job of it, then you're going to struggle. I think Rice's offensive style is probably going to be a little bit of a mismatch for Texas State. So I'm taking Rice.
We move on to the Liberty Bowl.
The AutoZone Liberty Bowl, Navy versus Cincinnati.
Cincinnati at 7-5 out of the Big 12, taking on Navy at 9-2 out of the American Athletic. This game played on January 2nd in Memphis, Tennessee. I love my option teams. I love my Navy squad. Go Navy, beat Army. By the way, Navy and Army, for those who will settle in and watch America's game on Saturday, you'll notice they tend to come back to the pack a little bit and get back to what they do well against each other. Both schools, though, Daniel, now passing the football a bit more, especially Navy. I like Navy to win this football game over the Cincinnati Bearcats.
Yeah, I don't like either one of these defenses personally. I don't know who can play a little bit better defense. I don't know. That's a good question. I think that Navy is going to be able, like you say, with their style, sustain some drives, control the clock, bleed it. Maybe going to be a limited possession game. So based on that, I am actually going to take Navy over Cincinnati.
Can I just point out that you just Brett Favre'd yourself? You asked yourself your own question and then answered it a la Brett Favre in many press conferences. Well done, Daniel. Well done.
I didn't know.
And you also gave yourself a good question. You asked the question and then said, that's a good question. I love it. Absolutely love it. We're on to the Duke's Mayo Bowl. Maybe another Flava Flav appearance. Who knows?
The Duke's Mayo Bowl, Wake Forest versus Mississippi State.
Played in Charlotte, North Carolina at Bank of America Stadium. Mississippi State at 5-7, taking on Wake Forest, who is kind of the de facto home team in this game at 8-4. Mississippi State out of the SEC. Wake Forest out of the ACC. I will say this about Mississippi State. I think they're probably slightly better than 5-7. They played a lot of teams tough this year. I really feel like Mississippi State can win this game, but I'll go with Wake Forest just because they had to travel less and they're the de facto home team.
Yeah, I'm taking Wake Forest as well. Jake Dickert's done an awesome job coaching that program, leading them, getting them in a position where they're able to, kind of rebound and get the program in a better spot. I like how they built their team this offseason. I think they've got good depth. They prioritize productivity. I do think that their offensive efficiency is a little erratic at times, and their ability to finish drives can kind of be an issue, but I think that they're going to be able to get it done in this matchup, against Mississippi State, who I think, at times has been a little leaky, especially in the back end. I watched them a few times this year, and I went, man, they got some busts in the back end. Get ready, Mississippi State coming to Huntington Bank Stadium next season.
Yeah, and then the Gophers will return the favor, I believe, the following year and head to Starkville. We close our final matchup of bowl season. It's a pretty fun one. I love the Holiday Bowl, long-standing bowl. Gophers have been victorious there under Tracy Claeys. And why don't we just close this off with the intro?
The Holiday Bowl, SMU versus Arizona.
Thanks again to AJ Fredrickson for helping us out on this edition. This game will be played at Snapdragon Stadium in San Diego, California, on their awful field, which somehow they butchered building a new stadium. That field is terrible. Every game, it's awful. It'll feature number 17 Arizona State at 9-3 out of, the Big 12. SMU at 8-4 out of the ACC. SMU pretty up and down this year. At the beginning of the year, I thought they could be back in the college football playoff. They were a little inconsistent this year. I still like their roster. I like Rhett Lashley. I like their head coach. I'm borderline surprised that he's still there, but I know there's a lot of money in that program now. I'm going to go with SMU in this one, Daniel.
I'm going to take Arizona, underrated team. Did a good job this offseason, put themselves in a position for success based on, really hitting the transfer portal, adding productive players. Fun team to study. I look at SMU. I think, their ability to run the football, I don't think that they're on the levels there of Arizona. Ishmael Mahdi, a transfer portal ad who can run the rock. I think that he's going to have a nice game. I think this is a good matchup for him versus SMU's defense. And like we say, the caveat is who plays. I think that's a big factor. And, I'm going to update on Twitter on a lot of these matchups to give insight, regarding day to day, because it changes day to day who's available. But based on what we know right now, I am going to take Arizona over SMU.
Unofficial, Daniel, but do you have any idea how many games we differed on? I just did the count. It's very unofficial. It's probably off by one, give or take, a direction. 9. I got 9. Yeah. That's pretty similar.
Wow. So we're pretty similar, yeah.
We approach the games from different ways, and obviously, when I do some of this talk about uniforms and all that stuff, some of that's facetious. I think most people know by now, although it's debatable. But
yeah,
I think I know the game better than just team names and uniforms. But bowl season is meant to be fun. I think we'll close with this, Daniel. When the game is kicked off, speaking as a Gophers fan, I want to win the game. It's still a competition. But I don't really care. And I know that might be taboo for some people. But yeah, at the end of the day, Daniel, 8-5 looks better than 7-6. I'll give you that. I absolutely want to win the game. But these are the rewards for a season completed. And again, we can have the competition about should 7-5 teams be playing in bowls. Whatever. We can have that debate. But the reality is this is the system that we currently play in. I do even think as the college football playoff expands, Daniel, and it's absolutely going to, I don't know if it's going to go from 12 to 24 or just up to 16, 18, whatever they want to do. I do believe we'll start to eliminate bowl games, but I do believe bowl games will be available and open to teams that want to participate in them. I think they'll be viewed more as the NIT or the Crown is viewed in college basketball, to make that comparison. I'm not convinced they'll ever truly go away until we get to a 32 team plus playoff. But I'm just not convinced we can realistically do that the way the money model is set up in college football. So I actually do think bowl games are going to survive, but I do think as fans, we have to get used to just positioning them differently. They're definitely becoming more exhibitions than actual real competitions, but you can still have fun with it. And it's great opportunities for a lot of guys. We talk about who's going to play, who isn't going to play. Well, on a lot of these teams, Daniel, there are good players who don't get an opportunity to play. So it's a good opportunity for viewed as fun. I'm not saying you need to throw a parade for the Gophers if they win the game because they won the Rate Bowl and finished 8-5. But that doesn't mean as a fan base you can't have fun with these things. And I hope that that's what today's podcast got out to people, that this is meant to be fun. Have some fun with it and enjoy the college football playoff for as arbitrary as it is and for whatever it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, bowl season's about, just enjoying the fact that football's on during the holiday season. You get to see some maybe younger players that you haven't had a chance to watch. That's kind of springboard into the next season. The changes in the portal have made bowl games a little less attractive, in my opinion, just because it's like, who's going to play? Coaches are going everywhere. There's a ton of drama, but at the end of the day, the plucky quirkiness of bowls makes it fun. There's always some weird game that, there's 40 points scored by both teams and it comes down to the last play. I mean, these kids, they want to enjoy the experience of playing college football. They've watched bowl season growing up. And, we got to remember that this is their experience. Some of them aren't going to be able to go, the college football playoff. Their program's not in a position to do that. So their last moment, their last memories of bowl games, I think it's good to remember kind of the intent behind the bowl to create an experience for the guys that are playing the game and cap their season in a special way.
Yeah, and I don't know when or how, House, but a part of me thinks we'll look back on this era of the last 5 years and maybe the next 5 years, and we'll see that it was a transition point to what college football becomes and settles into. I think in time we will get to a point where you maybe don't have as many opt-outs. Maybe we finally figure out the calendar where, portal season's down to 1 versus 2, but maybe we'll finally figure out a better strategy for when it actually opens. That's not going to stop players from saying, okay, I'm still not going to play in the game, but technically I'm locked in till through the bowl game. My solution has always been, Daniel, the easy thing to do with a lot of these players and to stop a lot of this from happening is when we get to a point where you're signing a contract, a letter of intent, an agreement, whatever you want to call it, that runs through your final game of the season. So if you're taking money to play and you're getting money to play, you don't get to bow out before the bowl game. Now, if you want to give if you want to show up and give a half-assed effort and let your team down, you're free to do that. But we're paying you to play for this year. You need to play in this bowl game. I think we will get to that point eventually.
There'll be some
clear
incentives.
Some of this up. Yep,
there'll be
100%.
some incentive-based stuff for playing the bowl game. And I mean, maybe there's some sort of thing where if you don't want to play in it, the school gets some money out of it, where, if you want to go to the NFL, here's the price to pay. I don't know. I think there's going to be some changes made. We're early in this process of revenue share and NIL and the relationship between the two. So that's going to impact bowl season plus the expansion of the CFP. I mean, I was just down in Vegas at the College Football Hall of Fame and just having discussions with people. I'm telling you right now that the CFP will be expanded. It's just a matter of, what format it is. There are several 80s you talk to that like the 24-team format, and there's several teams that are 80s that are against the 24-team but believe in the 16. So I think we will end up at 16.
As much as I don't love 24, because again, I'll make the college basketball comparison, and I'm not trying to poo-poo on other programs, but if you're trying to tell me at the end of the day, these are the best teams and we're going to field a national championship off of this, well, then that can't necessarily be a team that went 7-5 and won the MAC.
Right.
But I will say this, though, to follow that college basketball model and to maybe create some excitement and give everybody the belief that they do have a chance, maybe you do need to get to a point, Daniel, where if you win your conference, you get the automatic bid, and then you do get your 24 teams. So the MAC team, now maybe they have to open up on the road. I think there's a way to do that. I'm getting to the point where maybe I would be in favor of that. That would still leave, Daniel, quite a bit of bowl games to be played if you wanted to do it. And believe me, college football is going to want to do it, and the universities are going to want to do it because a lot of it is a good moneymaker. So I don't think college football ever wants to give these bowl games up. They may scale it back. I mean, we just did 35 games. There might be a world, Daniel, where there's 22 in addition to the college football playoff. We'll see. All that will work itself out, and that's probably all for a different day. But for this edition of Gophers 101, I think that pretty much sums it up. But Daniel, I do want to give you one more opportunity to let everybody know about Gophers Guru and where they can get your work and where they can find you.
Yeah, you can check out my work at gophersguru.com, sort of a next-gen approach to Gopher coverage, blending the football schematics with, advanced stats, kind of giving you analysis of every aspect of the program, including recruiting, transfer portal. It's going to get crazy here. So come over to the site, check out what's going on, stay up to date. The portal tracker, off-season tracker give you updated information on who's staying, who's going, what changes are being made. So check it out. $5 a month gets you access to the content on the website.
Roll the boat, Scotty Mark! Roll the boat, Scotty Mark, go Gophers!
I could play those all day long. I'll actually close with this. You and I texted about this last night, Daniel, and who knows, maybe there'll be news before I could even post this. I think there's a small world where PJ Fleck is the head football coach at Michigan. I don't think the percentage is very high, but there's a reason why he's showing up on lists from big publications and people who are in the know. I do not believe that he would be Michigan's first choice, but I do think there's a world where it could happen. But as I've always said, and I know not everybody feels this way, and that's fine. That's the beauty of sports. Until this thing really turns sour, Daniel, in my mind, PJ can stay as long as he wants. He can leave whenever he wants, but he can also stay whenever he wants, or stay as long as he wants. I know I said we were going to wrap this up, but I guess I would like your opinion very quickly on the PJ to Michigan talk.
Well, it's very unique. Michigan's hiring a coach later here. They ideally would have probably liked to have done this, before signing day and, all the chaos begins of the coaching cycle. A lot of these G5 guys that were rising, they've been hired. So you're going to be looking for an experienced guy that, can build a program, springboard it forward, kind of basically come into a situation that's messy right now and kind of clean that thing up. And I don't know. I mean, if PJ's an attractive candidate to a school that's looking for consistency and stability. So, I mean, you never know. You never know what could happen. We'll keep an eye on it and see where Michigan ends up in the search. I mean, it's going to be a unique one because it's later, like I said.
I just don't know how this would work at Michigan.
Roll the boat, Scotty Mark, go Gophers!
Row the boat, go blue.
Oh gosh,
the best one ever would have been Row Tide, which I guess still could happen. Kalen DeBoer goes to Michigan.
Yeah.
PJ inserts at Alabama.
No.
Okay. That is officially all I got for you, Daniel. Thank you for making time to do this. It's one of my favorite shows of the year. Thanks a ton, buddy.
Appreciate you, man. Good to see you.
That is Daniel House from gophersguru.com at Daniel House MN on the X machine. I'm Ross Brendel from SKOR North. Thank you so much for joining this edition of Gophers 101. If you are watching on the SKOR North feed on YouTube, please like, subscribe, comment below. Let us know your bowl game thoughts. And if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you are listening to this pod, please rate and review kindly.